Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a standard operating procedure document from Montra Nivesha Angkor's boutique residence, and we're going to turn it into a fascinating masterclass on the psychology of customer experience. We're looking directly at their front office training manual, specifically the section on guest departure and checkout, and let me tell you, it is packed with incredible behavioral insights that apply way beyond just the hospitality industry.
All right, let's jump right in by anchoring ourselves to the absolute core thesis of our source material. The checkout is not just a simple financial transaction, it's actually a vital rebooking conversation. The guest just might not know it yet. This training document makes a really profound point right out of the gate. The last impression matters exactly as much as the first. When a guest stands at that desk, they're deciding in real time whether your business is honest, whether you actually care about their experience, or if they're just being processed so you can quickly get your room back.
It's crazy to think about how a mere 90 seconds can radically alter a business's bottom line. The source material presents two scenarios for the exact same stay at the exact same hotel with the exact same charges. Imagine this. In scenario A, it's rushed. The agent barks room number, slides the paper across without any explanation, and looks away. The guest leaves feeling like they just returned a library book. They go home, check their bank statement, and dispute a charge they probably would have accepted at the desk, ultimately leaving a 3-star review. Now contrast that with scenario B. Mr. Chai is greeted by name, his charges are clearly explained line by line, and a tuk-tuk is offered. He leaves a glowing 5-star review and actually rebooks directly 6 months later. The difference wasn't the room, right? It was those final 90 seconds.
So, here's our roadmap for mastering this process. We'll start with the peak end rule, move into the 8 checkout stages, discuss handling folio disputes, tackle the loyalty question, and finally look at how to earn that repeat stay.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the peak end rule.
Why do those last 90 seconds at the desk carry such an immense amount of weight? Well, it all comes down to human memory and a fascinating psychological principle called the peak end rule. This is backed by research showing that people don't remember an experience like a continuous movie. Instead, they remember the emotional peaks, the absolute best and worst moments, and crucially, they remember the end. Guests remember the end of their stay far more vividly than almost anything else that happened in the middle of their trip. If you fumble the checkout, you literally overwrite the pleasant memories of their vacation with frustration.
And to put that into perspective, the training notes highlight a staggering statistic: 40%. A smooth, warm checkout makes a guest 40% more likely to leave a positive review, even if the stay itself had small imperfections. Think about that for a second. You can actually rescue a slightly flawed stay simply by nailing the departure experience.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 8 checkout stages.
So, how do we actually capture that massive 40% boost? Montra Nivesha uses an incredibly precise sequence. Notice how the first 3 stages are entirely about establishing trust. Step 1 is the warm greeting, making eye contact before they even reach the desk. Step 2 is verifying the name, room, and dates out loud. And Step 3 is walking through the folio line by line. These steps answer the guest's unspoken questions. Do you care about me? Do you know who I am? And most importantly, are you honest? Sliding a piece of paper across a desk is pretty dismissive, but walking them through their room rate, their breakfast charge, and their incidentals, that shows real respect.
Then we hit stage 4, the payment process. This one is so critical, it requires its own non-negotiable closing sequence. You absolutely must verify the correct card, explicitly release the pre-authorization hold, provide the receipt, and confirm the email. As the manual brilliantly points out, a wrong charge that's caught and fixed at the desk is just a minor embarrassment. But a wrong charge found on a bank statement a week after checkout, that is an absolute crisis.
Stages 5 through 8 pivot from logistics back to genuine care. We ask about their stay, we offer bell service even if we're pretty sure they'll decline, and we deliver a highly specific final farewell. But take a look at Stage 8, updating the property management system. You have to immediately update both checked out and vacant dirty in the system. If you don't do both of those things before looking up at the next guest, the housekeeping team is delayed, and the entire hotel ecosystem bogs down. It's really the invisible backbone of a good checkout.
Which brings us to Section 3, handling folio disputes.
Let's be real for a second. What happens when things go wrong? The chaos of billing arguments generally falls into 3 exact types of disputes. Type 1 is a genuine hotel error. You just apologize and remove it instantly. Type 3 is pre-auth confusion, which really just requires clear education that the hold is being released. But Type 2, that's the tricky one. The guest misremembers. They swear up and down they didn't touch the minibar, but your system says they did. The training manual is crystal clear here on what not to say. Never say, well, the system says you did. Never say, are you sure? It's super confrontational and dismissive. Instead, you need to use non-confrontational scripts to diffuse the situation.
And this brings us to a brilliant concept the manual calls the $8 rule. If a guest disputes a small charge, basically anything under $15, and insists they didn't use it, you remove it. No argument. Why? Because a negative online review complaining about a disputed minibar soda costs the hotel way more than $8. Guest trust and your online reputation is worth infinitely more than winning a petty, exhausting argument over an $8 bag of potato chips.
All right, on to Section 4, the loyalty question.
Now we reach what the SOP calls the most important 10 seconds of the entire checkout process. When you ask the simple question, how was your stay? You have to stop, hold the silence, and truly listen. Don't preempt them by saying, I hope everything was great. Just let them speak. If they say wonderful, boom, you have a high rebooking potential. But if Mrs. Park mentions an issue, like a loud air conditioner, this is a gift. This is your absolute last chance to apologize to her and recover a service failure before it becomes a permanent public review. And if they hesitate, just give them space to speak.
And here is a mind-blowing realization for anyone working in customer service. Are you actually listening to their tone? Remember, the word fine is not a compliment. If a guest says, it was fine, it almost always means something was below their expectation, but they just don't think it's serious enough to complain about. You need to gently poke at that word. You need to say something like, is there anything we could have done better? Just to surface that hidden feedback.
Finally, Section 5, earning the repeat stay.
Stage 7 requires strict adherence to a specific script to execute the absolute perfect farewell. It is exactly 2 sentences. You must use the guest's name, which activates a personalization memory, making them feel known rather than processed. You must say the full property name. You must explicitly plant the idea of a return visit by saying we hope to welcome you back. And crucially, I love this detail, you must maintain eye contact until they physically turn away from the desk. Turning back to your computer screen before they leave just feels like a dismissal.
The training manual asks its staff to internalize this one lingering standard. Will this guest want to come back after talking to me? Get the checkout right, respect the peak end rule, and you don't just close a folio, you earn the repeat stay. So whether you run a hotel, a freelance business, or even a dental clinic, ask yourself, what do the final 90 seconds of your customer experience look like? Are you truly earning their return, or are you just handing back a library book?